Ladies and gentlemen, we are live with Chris Moore, the CEO of Nordic Group, which is a fairly major player in the Nordic healthcare sector, with a diverse portfolio of companies. And welcome to the Biohacker Summit. You've just had your time on stage. How do you think about biohacking?
Alex, biohacking is the start of it's a continuum of where we started 20 years ago into this health ownership. So when I hear the term biohacking, it's a term, it's a throwaway line in some ways, but really what it's saying is we're taking ownership of our health and we're prepared to do the legwork, which no other generation has done. And this is biohacking as a movement is incredibly important to the future of healthcare.
Thank you. And so you are definitely supporting that movement through your portfolio.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you're seeing that?
Well,
I'm
now getting on in age, but once upon a time, I walked into a clinic in Copenhagen, and a doctor told me the future of healthcare was going to change. It was 1994. I was 23, and the guy said to me, "The future will be all about testing. We will try and find out things about our biochemistry that we're not testing, and we will look at other areas," long before genetics came in. And I think, well, this guy is weird. Why the hell is he telling me this when the big hospitals are clearly the way forward? Mm-hmm. And naive Chris went away speculating this and went back sometime later, a month later or so, and said, "Look, tell me your story again." Mm-hmm. And he explained that for him, the future of healthcare was all around the individualization. This is 1994, right? Long before biohackers have sprouted up, and long before really anybody else was looking at anything other than statistical medicine. Mm-hmm. I.e., if you do a study and you show a 60, 70% benefit, that's good, mm-hmm. right? Except if you're in the 20 or 30%, that's not. Mm-hmm. So this was profound for me. I went away thinking, this is my role.
Nice.
And I took it upon myself to educate myself within the area of lab science. And we established Nordic Laboratories to go to the market and test in
the 90s,
in the mid-90s. Yeah, 97 we launched Nordic Labs. And bearing in mind, this is a social medicine part of the world. Everybody has access to healthcare, mm-hmm. and it's free, mm-hmm. whatever that means. And here I was coming along with a test that was going to cost several hundred euros and sell it to the people that would get free healthcare. Mm-hmm. Would they buy that? Well, already by then, people were rejecting mainstream medicine, not because mainstream medicine is completely wrong, because in lots of areas it does very well, but it does it in acute medicine. And we're seeing then, and we see now, this evolution of long-term chronic conditions, which were not being helped by the individual or the strategies that doctors were employing at that point. So what we found was that there is absolutely the need for taking ownership. It doesn't matter what your doctor says. If he says you're psychosomatic, but you know you have a headache, mm-hmm. You're going to say, "I need to get rid of my headache." Mm-hmm. So it's that shift that we saw already then, that we go to the market, and doctors, amazingly, for me, from that perspective, were saying, "Yeah, Chris, this is what we want. This is the future of medicine." So Scandinavia specifically, and I say Scandinavia includes Finland, and it's a geopolitical discussion, but has a really big step ahead of the rest of the world in this area. I know a lot of doctors, MDs, that are operating not necessarily directly with functional medicine per se, but they understand it.
They're
and
aware
the
of it,
most important thing is they don't dismiss it.
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. So since that time in the sort of late 90s, you've built this group of companies. You've supported people taking responsibility for their outcomes, i.e. biohacking.
Yep.
And so what is your main agenda here? What is your main offer here?
In this event?
Yeah.
Well, what we're, again, it's making almost a demand on the consumer, the biohacker, the individual private person, whoever they might be, to take that responsibility. Health optimizer. Mm-hmm. And you need data. Full stop. I don't care which doctor you go to. They may be the best in the world, but they can't guess who you are. So you need data, and we focused a lot in the last 3 or 4 years in genetics. We feel we have a very good understanding of how nutrigenomics plays a role in understanding epigenetics and therefore what you can do in healthcare parameters to optimize. And so therefore our mission here is in part to say, look, you need to be aware of your genes. There are some very good tests out there from a number of laboratories, but hopefully also from us.
Yep.
And we're launching a really smart test just here at the Biohacker Summit called DNA Smile, which is for mouth and oral, not hygiene, but understanding how genetics in our oral cavity, because from there you will push information to systemic function. And if we get that wrong, your increased risk of disease is jumping.
Multiplied.
So what we're looking to identify is what genes you have, how do they function, and what can we do
Focused on the mouth.
in the mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, we have DNA Health, which looks at systemic.
Is that what?
This is I don't have the actual flyer here, but the test is because we're now going to see a lot more information about the oral microbiome.
Okay.
And you need to understand. So the microbiome is the phenotype, whereas the genetics is your structure. The Americans were very good at identifying that the genes load the gun whilst the environment pulls the trigger.
Okay.
And it's an absolute truism. So don't think that you can just do your genetics and everything's good, and don't think you can just do a phenotypical test for cardiovascular disease or otherwise and think everything is good. You're built from your genes, and that's important to understand. And one of the things that genetics throws us is an area of science that's not going away. On the
contrary.
On the contrary. We've had every
It's
other...
here to stay, and it's booming.
And it's booming.
Yeah.
And we will know more next year than we do this year. But does that discount doing it this year? No.
Yep.
Because the sooner you bring and adopt your diet, your interventions, be aware of your disease risks, the quicker you can mitigate it, and therefore, as you allude to, health optimization, and in those that are already at disease risk, my age and older, we mitigate and reduce that risk.
So tell us a little bit about your product line in terms of the genetics side of things. How are you going forward? You've got the oral the oral genetic thing. That's a pretty niche offer. I haven't heard of that before.
Well, what we've realized is that, first of all, our understanding of genes is still in its infancy, and therefore we don't want to accelerate through that. And the other thing that we have to understand is onboarding information. If I gave you your whole genome,
you'll overwhelm people.
And say, hey, Alex, come here, have a look. You'll go, thank you, and walk away, right? Whereas what we're trying to do is guide you on a tour. You're going to do this. You need to look at your methylation because your methylation genes seem inhibited. It doesn't mean you have poor methylation. It just means you should be aware of it. I have a classic example of a little girl born 2 or 3 years ago. Her mother decided to do her DNA health test, and she rang me up and she went, "Oh, Chris, what have I done? What have I done?" And I said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "Well, have you not seen the test?" And I'm not a clinician, so I don't see the results. Yeah. But she said, "Have a look." So I looked at it and went, "Oh, wow, we've probably not seen a profile like this because she had so many inflammation genes." And what that tells her, the mother, is say, look, when your little daughter cries in pain, it's a real thing. It's not just another kid crying because they didn't get their carrot or whatever else they wanted. But so what it does, it empowers us to understand our areas of problems. And in this mother's case, she can now say, okay, I've got to be aware of my daughter because she has these increased risks.
Right.
It doesn't mean she does have inflammation every time, just means that she has that risk.
And so the way that you're solving the information overload problem is by reducing
the size.
The
profiles.
Reducing the profiles.
Yep. So we have DNA diet,
Yep.
looking at dietary, what's the best diet information for you. We have DNA health, which is the broader panel, really looking at what can you do to mitigate disease. And there are some genes that we know very well now that increase risk of dementia or increase risk of cardiovascular disease or increase risk of addictive behavior or whatever. So there we move into DNA Mind. We have a very nice test to show risk.
That's 3 so far.
3.
Yep.
Then we have DNA estrogen, which is estrogen, which suggests it's only for women. It's absolutely not. It's looking at the methylation of hormones. And when you are exposed to poor methylation of hormones, your disease risk increases. So understanding that profile and then extrapolating into the phenotype to see homocysteine, to see B6, B12, folate, then looking at the estrogen pathways, looking at 2-hydroxy estrogens, etc., suddenly you become so well informed about your problems that may exacerbate. They're not really there yet.
Yeah.
And so
The dials and knobs on the hormone profile.
correct. And
Right.
then we've got DNA Sport.
Yeah.
We've able to identify, and I'm not joking, we're able to see in genetics now the likelihood of you being a sprinter or a middle distance runner.
Athletic profiles.
You also look at injury risk, and these aren't platitudes. These are not small things. And if I was a manager of a football club, I would be saying, I want to test.
team.
I want to test this team, and I want to test the youth team, because we can begin to tell you where the player should play. Now, that's I know is going to be a frightening proposition, because we can see how he plays. He plays fantastically well in the midfield, and he does, until he can't, and then it's too late. But now we can predict the problems and already say to the management, look, move him to a defensive position. He's a fantastic player, but he doesn't have the engine to run the midfield. And that is a game changer. And you're seeing clubs now adopt it.
Game changer.
Literally.
Yep, nice. So how many more are there? Are we...
We've now got Grow Baby we're launching, and Grow Baby is phenomenal.
And Smile as well.
Smile. But let me just talk about Grow Baby.
Okay.
Grow Baby is taking the genes of the mother and understanding those help her protect her unborn fetus through a normal gestational period. The most important period of anyone's life is the first trimester.
Yeah.
The first trimester. If we get it right,
Yeah.
the likelihood is you will prevent disease manifestation in the rest of your life.
Amazing.
So we've got tools now to understand that process. And the ideal thing is to give birth to a baby.
Not making a
after
designer
9
baby, but it's just
supporting the process.
measuring,
And you want to deliver at 9 months, not 8 months, not 8.5 months. You want to deliver at 9 months at normal weight. What does that do? It elicits the chance for that baby to grow quicker postpartum. We then help the mother understand her genes to make sure that the food that she eats and the food that she then gives to her child is the most optimal. And that's the promise of genes. Is it perfect? No. But it's a damn sight better than it
in
was.
the right direction. Absolutely. So the Smile, we've covered that.
Yep.
Any others?
We have DNA Active, which is a lower level than Sport.
Okay.
For people that like to go to the
Active
gym.
lifestyle.
Active lifestyle.
Yeah. So there's about 10 in total?
And then we're going to launch in about a week's time, 2 weeks' time, DNA Resilience. And that's
Okay.
really very exciting, because we understand now there are genes coding for stress factors that impact the way you perform. If you know that, you can mitigate it. But
So when you've got this whole portfolio of products, you're saying that you're dividing them into these smaller groups to save overwhelm.
correct.
Is there an overall? Can you get all of them done at once?
You could.
Yeah,
But-
but you will be overwhelmed.
You would have we right now we have a very nice offer here for the participants, and if they take
It's going to be
it,
expensive as well.
well, we've done a phenomenal deal.
Yeah.
It's €295 for 6 panels, so they can choose them. But that's normally the price of the one test.
No way.
So
Okay.
we've really helped them out here, I hope.
Buy one, get six free.
Something
get
like
5
that.
free. Yeah.
Right. And then but as long as people take this information and say, I don't need to onboard everything tomorrow, but I take it in bite sizes and I employ the information that's really important, and then I go back and look and evaluate and do the next stage next month. So I said earlier on, I've been doing this 20 years. I didn't just wake up one day and say I'm going to have a smoothie every morning, or I'm going to check my resting heart rate, or I'm going to do a cold shower, or whatever. This is an accumulation of knowledge, and I think we have to be wary of onboarding information too quickly, because humans can't do it. We need
do
to
it one step at a time.
Absolutely.
Phase it in. Okay, so we're in the final stretch here. I guess this is what the product looks like. If you can see that, okay, it doesn't really work.
Well, let me show you.
But
let me open it.
quick question: if there was one idea that you would want to share with our audience, the most powerful idea, what would that be from your point of view?
I think it's health ownership. It's not a question about what Nordic buys, sells, or otherwise. It's you taking responsibility for your health. If we do that, and you start onboarding the information from an early age, we will see disease risk reduced dramatically. We will see life extended. Whether we see the 130 years that people are touting, I don't know. But what we will see is healthy aging. And so my demand almost to society is take
The
responsibility.
call to action.
Take responsibility.
Take responsibility. That is exactly the biohacker mantra. So thank you for sharing. If you want to just demo the product.
So here we are. It's a swab. right?
It's a swab.
It's a swab, and all you do is stick it in your mouth.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
This one hasn't been used.
And from there,
Yeah.
we send it to our lab in Helsinki. And I would say something about the Finns just here, because Finland's an awesome country.
Yep.
I live in Copenhagen. It's a great place as well. But Finland has some awesome views on technology and bringing new things into action
Pretty
quickly.
special.
And we have a very, very state-of-the-art lab here in Helsinki.
Nice.
I'm very proud of it. It's something we built from scratch, but I couldn't do it without the Finns.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you, Alex.
And looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you.
Over and out.